I didn't mean for it to happen like that. Honestly, I don't even know what I meant to happen. It started as a joke, a quiet little thrill that lived only in glances and late-night texts. But that night I opened the door. My husband was upstairs, asleep. I had just checked. And he was standing on my porch, hood pulled low, hands in his pockets like he was cold. Or nervous. Maybe both. I told him he couldn't stay. That it was crazy. That it had gone too far already. But then my hand moved. It didn't close the door. Pulled it wider. He stepped in like he was stepping into a dream he didn't trust. Like if he moved too fast it might vanish. I whispered, "Just a minute." "That's it." He nodded. Said nothing. The hallway was dark except for the kitchen light. We didn't even touch. But the silence between us felt heavier than if we had. I could hear the hum of the fridge, the creak of the wood beneath his boots, and underneath it all the pounding in my chest. I should have sent him back outside. I should have closed the door. But I didn't. I just watched him. His jaw tense, his eyes not quite meeting mine. And something in me softened and tightened at the same time. And then, footsteps. Not his. My husband's. From upstairs. Coming down. I don't even remember moving. Just the adrenaline. The blur of panic and instinct. And suddenly I had him by the wrist. Pulling. The hallway closet was half open. It smelled like old coats and cedar and laundry sheets. I yanked the door wide. And we both stepped inside. Pressed into each other in the dark. With nothing but breath and the sound of my husband's feet on the stairs. And in that closet, everything changed. It was so small in there. Just enough room to stand still. Or breathe each other in. My back hit the wall hard enough to make me gasp. He froze. Not touching me. Not even looking. But I could feel him, the shape of him, the heat like gravity pulling everything in. My husband was just outside. His steps were slow. Heavy. I heard him pause at the bottom of the stairs. Then the creak of the living room floorboards. He was close, too close, and my throat tightened with fear. I held my breath. I held everything. His hand brushed the wall behind me. Barely a whisper, but it felt like a lightning strike. Not a touch. Just an intention. A warning. Promise. And still no words. My fingers curled around the edge of my sweater. His scent, soap and cold night air, filled the tiny space between us. I bit my lip so hard it ached. Because if I made even the smallest sound, it would all come crashing down. I felt his breath on my collarbone. Warm. Shaky. Like he was breaking apart just from standing this close. And then, his hand found my waist. Slowly. Carefully. Like he was asking a question with his fingertips. And my body answered. Not with movement. Not even with sound. Just that full body shiver you can't control, the kind that betrays everything. My husband turned on the TV. The volume rose. And in that moment something inside me slipped. Something I'd been holding back for months. Years maybe. And I let myself lean back just an inch. But enough to feel him catch me. My mouth was still covered. Not by him. By me. Because what I was feeling could have filled the entire house. And yet we stayed silent. Still. Pressed between wood and cotton and 1,000 unspoken things. And that's when I realized. I wasn't afraid of getting caught. I was afraid of what I might do. If we didn't. He still hadn't said a word. Not when I let him in. Not when I pulled him into the dark. Not even now, with my body trembling inches from his. But somehow, I knew exactly what he was thinking. 'Cause I was thinking it too. That if we moved, if either of us moved, it would be over. There'd be no going back. No pretending. No more denial. The closet smelled like winter coats and memories. The kind of scent that wraps around you, soft and heavy. Like something you didn't know you missed. His breath was behind my ear now. Steady but not calm. And my heart? It was reckless. It didn't care about consequences or promises or wedding rings. Just wanted to feel. Outside my husband laughed. A low, distracted sound as the TV played something neither of us in that closet could hear. He was so close. So unaware. And that only made it worse. Or better. I couldn't tell anymore. His fingers, they didn't roam. They waited. Curved around my waist like they were meant to be there. Like they belonged to me. I felt the warmth of his chest behind me. Not touching, not quite. But I could sense the tension in him. That aching stillness that says more than any confession. I closed my eyes, and in that blackness I imagined it. What would happen if I turned around? If I let my hands find him the way I'd wanted to for so long? If I let the heat between us mean something? My lips parted, not to speak, just to breathe, just to feel something real in all that hiding. And then, his hand shifted, just a little. His thumb brushed under the hem of my shirt. Not skin. Not yet. But it was enough. Enough to set my nerves on fire. Enough to make me forget who I was and remember who I used to be. Before I got so careful, so loyal, so lonely. I knew I should stop it. Say something. Step away. But the truth was, I didn't want to stop. I wanted to disappear into him, into the quiet disaster we were about to create. I didn't kiss him, but I almost did. All it would have taken was one turn, one glance over my shoulder, and everything would have unraveled. But I didn't. I couldn't. Because I knew if our eyes met in that moment, I'd never be able to look away. He was still behind me, still barely touching. But everything about his body screamed restraint. His breath was shallow, his hands still, like he was holding himself back for my sake, not his. That only made it harder. Because the truth is, I wanted him more for not touching me. For the way he waited. The way he respected a boundary that we'd already broken just by being in that closet together. And maybe that's why I finally whispered it. So quietly I wasn't even sure I said it out loud. You shouldn't be here. He didn't answer. Not with words. But I felt his forehead press gently, just barely, against the back of my head. And it was the softest yes, the quietest I know I'd ever felt. And I hated how much I needed it. Outside, the sound of footsteps again. This time moving away. Maybe to the kitchen. Maybe upstairs. We didn't move. My legs were starting to shake. My hand still covered my mouth. And my whole body felt like it had forgotten how to be mine. He exhaled long and slow, like he'd been holding that breath for years. And it brushed my neck like a secret. I almost turned around again. I almost let myself fall. But I didn't. Because some part of me knew. If we kissed, I wouldn't stop there. I wouldn't want to. And whatever guilt I was still pretending to hold on to, it would vanish the second our lips met. So I stayed facing the wall. Frozen. Burning. His hand never moved again. Not even when my fingers dropped from my mouth and slowly, carefully reached for his. No words. Just that one small touch, palm to palm. A quiet betrayal. And somewhere inside me, a lock turned. I didn't move. But something inside me did. Something deep buried that hadn't stirred in years. It woke up in that closet. In the space between his breath and my skin. Our hands barely touched. Not laced. Not gripped. Just resting together. Quiet. Heavy. Like two people holding the edge of a cliff and pretending it's a ledge. I could feel his pulse in his fingertips. Fast. Unsteady. Like mine. And that terrified me more than anything. Because it meant he wasn't pretending. He felt this too. All of it. The weight. The wrongness. The ache. Outside, a cupboard slammed shut. A glass filled with water. The television buzzed with laughter that didn't reach any of us. He shifted slightly. Not forward, not away. Just enough to make the tension snap tighter. His lips were near my ear now. Close enough that I could almost hear the words he wasn't saying. I'm sorry. Or maybe, I can't help it. But no sound came. Just breath. And for a second, I hated how much I needed him to say something. Anything. Because the silence was starting to say too much. I should have ended it. Opened the door. Walked out and never looked back. But I didn't. Because part of me, liked the danger. Not just the risk of being caught, but the risk of being seen. Really seen. And somehow he did. Even in the dark. Even with my back turned. He knew every part of me that was starving. He never asked why. Never tried to fix it. He just waited. And that patience, that unbearable stillness, made me feel more wanted than all the words my husband had said in the past year. My thumb moved first. A tiny stroke across his. And he flinched like I'd touched a nerve. Maybe I had. Because I felt it too. That low, slow burn that starts in the stomach and spreads like something irreversible. I closed my eyes, and in the darkness I let myself wonder, what if we never opened the door again? I didn't plan to stay in the dark, but I didn't want the light either. Because light meant truth. Light meant choices. And in that tiny closet I didn't want to choose. I just wanted to feel. His hand tightened, not in possession, not even in invitation, just confirmation that he was still there, that I wasn't imagining this pull between us, this silent disaster we were building together. The house felt like it was miles away, even though we were still inside it. Every sound from outside the door, the shifting floors, the hum of the fridge, the voices from the TV, they felt like echoes from a life that no longer belonged to me. Not in that moment. Not with him behind me. He moved. Barely. Just enough to let his forehead rest between my shoulder blades. And I swear, I stopped breathing. It wasn't sexual. It wasn't sweet. It was something else. Something raw. Like he needed to feel my spine against his skin just to believe I was real. That this was real. And I let him. I let myself be leaned on. Held without arms. Desired without touch. The kind of moment that says everything, without saying anything at all. I swallowed hard. My throat was dry. My whole body had gone warm, not flushed but flooded. And I felt the tears before I even realized they were coming. Not from guilt. Not even from fear. Just release. Because for the first time in a long time I felt wanted. Not for who I was supposed to be. Not for the mask I wore around the house or the smile I gave out of habit. But for this. The quiet, the cracked pieces, the unfinished version of myself I never let anyone see. And still, he didn't kiss me. He could have. I would have let him. But he didn't. And that restraint? That hurt more than a betrayal ever could. Because it meant he cared enough. To stop. To wait. To hold back even when I couldn't. And just as I was about to say something, anything, the sound we'd both forgotten to fear returned. Footsteps. Approaching. No warning. No chance to run. And suddenly, that door didn't feel like protection anymore. Felt like a trap. The door wasn't locked. But my body was. Frozen. Every muscle tense. Every breath caught in my throat like a secret I couldn't swallow. The footsteps were right outside now. Too slow to be casual. Too heavy to be safe. He didn't move behind me. Not even a flinch. And somehow, that steadiness made it worse. Because I knew, if that door opened, he wouldn't hide. He wouldn't lie. He'd stand there. And I would have to choose what story to tell. I felt his breath again. Not on my skin this time, but in the space between us. He had pulled back. Just slightly. Enough to let me go. If I wanted. But I didn't want to move. I wanted to stay in that impossible closeness. To stay in that moment where everything wrong felt more honest than anything right. The footsteps paused. Right outside the closet. I thought I might faint. My heart was pounding so loud, I was sure it would give us away. Like it was trying to break through my ribs just to scream the truth. He's here. I let him in. I wanted him. I pressed my hands flat against the inside of the door. Not to open it, but to hold myself still. He was just inches behind me, but I missed him already. Because in that space between breath and discovery, we both knew something was ending. Even if we didn't get caught, even if we slipped away without a sound, we wouldn't be the same people who stepped into that closet. Because now we knew what it felt like to almost lose control. What it meant to crave someone so deeply. You forget who you were trying to protect. The doorknob turned. Once. Then stopped. I didn't breathe. Neither did he. The footsteps shifted again. And slowly moved away. Gone. But the damage wasn't. Because when the danger passed, when I knew we were safe again, I didn't feel relief. I felt emptier than I ever had before. And that's when I knew. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. We didn't speak when we stepped out. But everything had already been said. The closet door creaked open like it knew what we'd done. Like it had held our confession in its wood. Absorbing the heat, the breath, the silence. And now it was letting it all out. I stepped out first. He waited, giving me space even then. Like he still believed I could go back to who I was before. But I couldn't. We both knew that. I adjusted my sweater. Tried to smooth my hair. as if that would fix anything. The hallway looked the same, but I didn't. Something had changed under my skin. Something permanent. Like a line had been drawn, and I had crossed it with my whole body. My husband was in the kitchen, sink running, cup on the counter. I walked past him like nothing had happened, kissed his cheek, smiled too easily, and hated myself for how good I was at pretending. I didn't look back. Not until I heard the front door open again, soft, careful, and then close behind him. Gone. Just like that. But the ghost of him stayed with me. In the shape of my spine. In the memory of his breath. In the silence we filled with everything we couldn't let happen. And I know what you're thinking. That it was wrong. That it was selfish. That it was a betrayal. And maybe you're right. But what no one talks about is how empty a marriage can feel. Even when everything looks perfect on the outside. What it's like to go untouched, unseen, unheard. For so long that a whisper in a dark closet feels louder than a vow. He didn't take anything from me. He just reminded me of what I'd given up. And now I can't unfeel it. I wish I could tell you this story ended with a decision. That I walked away or ran back or told the truth. But I didn't. I just stood there. In a hallway full of light. Missing the darkness. And wondering if he ever thinks about that night. The way I still do. Every time I pass that closet door.